do it, and it is always a challenge when people decide to do that, because you leave a vacancy that someone else is going to fill. I want to play for what one of those officials said tonight, speaking to Caitlin Collins in the last hour about what he saw was happening at the agency that he just left, the CDC.
The people that have been installed by Secretary Kennedy are full of ideology and bias that will actually contaminate the science. So I think that we have evidence that this is coming. And I think that the other part that we're seeing is that decisions are being made and data is being retrofitted to be able to address the decision. I think that that is really a clear sign that the direction that the country's public health is going is not one that is evidence-based or science-based, which is why our resignations are really together are trying to raise a red flag for everyone.
RFK Jr. came in knowing what he wanted the science to say. And it sounds like from that official, what is happening is that he is making pronouncements and then finding things to back it up. I mean, this is stuff that affects real people's lives, vaccines,
We're in National Immunization Awareness Month.
I hear the criticism from this person. I just have to say, he did use the term pregnant people in his resignation.
Oh, come
letter.
on.
And I'm sorry, if that is like the way you're presenting information, I have questions about your credibility.
Scott, it's so amazing.
It's not a ruse. He really wrote it down.
It's a ruse because people are dying.
This guy's not credible to me. That's all I'm telling you.
Scott, are you serious?
Come on.
No, he is not credible.
No. Are you serious that this is
yes, he did write it.
That of all the things that we're talking about here, immunizations, vaccines, autism, the research about on communicable diseases, on cancer, and you are the most concerned about someone's use of the word people.
Yeah, because
that's the most important thing
because you were just complaining about the politicization of science,
and I
can't think of politicization of science more than that, or of what some of these people said to the American people during COVID. So the credibility of some of these folks who are complaining. Look.
Okay, so
I'm complaining, and I'm a public health and preventive medicine physician. We in the NAACP are complaining, right? And we are an iconic civil rights and human rights organization. There is reason to complain, Scott. You have a person who, during his confirmation hearings, said that black people had a different immune system, that we should follow a different immunization schedule. You have a person who has spent his life undermining science, credible science. The people who walked out of the CDC, the people who resigned, these are not flippant folks. These are not people who did this on the slight of a turn. These are people who dedicated their livelihoods, who dedicated their hearts and their expertise to safeguarding the health of all Americans. And now we are compromised, not just from a health and well-being standpoint, but from a national security standpoint. What's going to happen when the next outbreak
let me just real quick play this, because
Scott
seems to think that RFK Jr., who says things like this, is more credible than people who have degrees.
I literally didn't
in the subject.
But watch, I didn't say.
But watch,
why are you
watch
saying
this
I said
clip.
that? I didn't say that.
When I was a kid, and I know what a healthy child is supposed to look like. I'm looking at kids as I walk through the airports today, as I walk down the street, and I see these kids that are just overburdened with mitochondrial challenges, with inflammation. You can tell from their faces, from their body movements, and from their lack of social connection. And I know that that's not how our children are supposed to look.
Science. Hashtag science.
This is why Ashish Shah said, this is wacky, flat earth, voodoo stuff. Please, Peter Hotez, please send a few introductory biology textbooks to the Department of HHS. I mean, look, the reason, Scott, I said what I said is because rather than you seriously answering a question about the real concerns that were raised by these officials about the bending of science to the will of that guy, you decided that the most important thing to you was their lack of credibility because they used the word people. I mean, I just think I understand the rhetoric and the political.
You realize that you're accepting some politicization of science, but not others, right?
What's the politicization of science that's been accepted?
Can men get pregnant or not?
Scott,
we're talking
in the
about
CDC, if you believe that, I'm saying you're not a terribly credible person.
The CDC that is responsible for the health and well-being of the nation.
That has absolutely nothing.
Nothing
to do with
it does, because it's a question of whether your scientists are going to politicize or not, and you accept some and not others.
To do with the conversation that we are having.
That's just the stuff.
I disagree. It's a credibility.
Why would we do that when people have died and are dying? Why would we do that when people's children are being dehumanized
in this country about real things, when everything just becomes about buzzwords
or political fodder?
I don't understand why you're rejecting this criticism of someone's credibility.
Yeah, because I think that what matters to people in their homes is whether or not they know what immunizations their child should have, which, by the way, immunizations have saved so many lives.
I'm not disagreeing with you about that. I agree.
What matters to them around the world is not what words are being used
I think it does matter,
by people.
Because it tells me what kind of person
it is. It is whether or not they can trust that the guy who's making decisions about their health actually knows what a mitochondria is.
Yes, and when we focus on, imbecilic things such as that, that's why people are then subject to misinformation and disinformation, and they resort to violence, Scott. There was just a police. It's not violence. This is not a laughing. There was a shooting at the CDC.
There's attacks on ICE agents every day. Who's responsible for that? You seem to reject the idea that violence is being incited before.
There are people rejecting the fact that people are
now you're blaming this.
I think it is.
Scott, you guys cherry pick these things like
we don't cherry pick.
Hold on a second, Scott. There's nobody who is justifying attacks against ICE officials. And nobody should justify or diminish somebody shooting hundreds of bullets into a workplace where people
are trying to save lives, where people are practicing public health.
So I don't understand why that would even be a comparison that you would make, honestly.
Because it's a great way to not answer the question.
Well,
no one
excellent way. You guys, we're way over our time here.
What question? Thousands of doctors, hundreds of thousands of doctors who probably don't use words that you don't like, who agree on the science. The science is settled when it comes to autism and vaccines.
Definitely.
They have nothing to do with each other.
Definitely.
Less than 1% of scientists suggest that there might be a link.
You seem to be very angry with me. I fundamentally agree with you.
No, but why do we have to get derailed by this political BS when you could just say, that's garbage and we shouldn't politicize science?
Because some scientists are allowed to politicize things and some aren't.
No.
And it depends on your politics, and that's how
that's not true.
That is very much not true.
That's not true.
Here we are.
Thank you for saying that.
I appreciate the discussion here, and Dr. Purcell, appreciate you being here. Everyone else, stand by. Next for us, reversing course, the Air Force now says that a January 6th rioter, Ashley Babbitt, will